In the drawing room, the door stood ajar, and the Duke and Duchess of Ludwig were comfortably attired. We were enjoying tea, with a teacup placed on the seat across from, clearly intended for me as well. Greetings to the Duke and Duchess. Did you have a restful night? Thanks to you, I slept soundly. You must have been exhausted yesterday, but I worry you might be too tired to greet us this morning. Thanks to everyone at the Duke's household, I rested peacefully. I appreciate it. The Duke's expression was slightly rigid, yet the Duchess greeted me warmly. I naturally took my place opposite them and accepted a warm cup of tea. Throughout our casual conversation, they refrained from asking why I hadn't come with Killian or inquiring about my relationship with him. It seems they already know that he didn't spend the night in the bride's room. There's no reason to raise awkward questions now. Instead, the Duke posed a question that felt like a subtle challenge. I understand Count Rigelhof raised you with great care, but do you truly comprehend what it means to be the hostess of an aristocratic family? Of course, you can always learn. Reading this from the original story made it clearer. If I had been asked suddenly, it might have caught me off guard. I can manage cash receipts and organize files. If there's a specific method you use, I'd be happy to learn it and master it swiftly. I imagine Count Rigelhof taught you that. His tone implied I might be after something more, perhaps the Duke's private documents. If I'm not trustworthy enough, feel free to teach me something else. I'll do my best to improve. The Duke of Ludwig cleared his throat, while the Duchess gently placed her hand on his arm, casting him a glance. She smiled graciously on his behalf. I'm pleased to hear you are familiar with cash receipts and document management. Could you help me with some tasks in 2 weeks? The work won't be too difficult. If you'd prefer, we can start next month. Must I wait 2 weeks? I have nothing pressing at the moment. If it's something I can assist with today, I will gladly do my best. Oh, well, it seems the lady needs some time to settle in. Feel free to contact me when you're ready. They probably plan to keep certain documents hidden from me. Still, the Duke and Duchess remained composed, their experience evident in their calm demeanor. We wouldn't ask our new daughter-in-law to work immediately. You'll need time to prepare for your stay here. Thank you for your understanding. Once again, they assured me I could reach out if needed. I had something in mind. Would it be possible to call for a tailor from the boutique to get some new dresses? For a moment, they both looked surprised, but then nervously nodded in agreement. It must have crossed their minds that I was about to order an extravagant gown from the Duke's funds. It's better they expect the worst. That way, they'll be impressed when I don't act out. I had no intention of explaining my true purpose for calling the tailor. Since the Duke's mansion is vast, I should familiarize myself with its layout. Could someone show me around? That was Killian's responsibility. Killian is busy. I didn't wish to cross paths with him, so I was glad to accept a guide. Besides, Killian would never offer assistance. Without hesitation, the Duchess summoned the butler, who immediately introduced himself. This is Butler Philip. He knows the mansion better than anyone. He will guide you. Philip smiled and greeted me warmly. My name is Philip Clement. Please call me Philip. It's an honor to have a new member of the Ludwig family. Nice to meet you, Philip. But if you're the Duke's butler, I'm sure you're quite busy. I wouldn't want to take up your time unnecessarily. Perhaps a maid could show me instead. You would prefer a maid over Killian's assistance? I appreciated their consideration. Perhaps they felt sorry for me. In that case, I'll accept your offer gratefully. I bid the Duke and Duchess farewell and followed Philip through the mansion. Exploring the vast estate seemed more enjoyable than sitting idly in a room. This is the Sistine Hall, where we display Count Ludwig's art collection. We change the exhibits every month. Famous paintings adorned the walls, and statues stood in the center of the room. Does this mean there's an art museum here with a new exhibition every month? That's impressive. In my previous life, I never had time to visit art museums, but here, I could admire beautiful works of art for free. It was exciting, even though the art wasn't mine. Can I come see it whenever I like? Or do I need permission? The Duke's family can enter at any time. I made a mental note of this place as a spot to visit when I had nothing to do. But there were more intriguing rooms to explore. This is the jewelry exhibition room. This is the jewelry exhibition room. The Duke's jewelry is displayed here, and it's used during important events. Unlike the Sistine Hall, you'll need permission from the Duke or Duchess to enter. The jewels sparkled beautifully, almost blinding in their radiance. This is the weapons and armor room, where the Duke and his sons keep their collections. The weapons here are made by renowned craftsmen. The room was filled with exquisite blades. And here we have the Grand Library, the heart of the Duke's knowledge. The library was enormous, filled with countless volumes. It will take a long time to explore all of this. With so many remarkable spaces to discover, I couldn't help but smile. I tried to keep my expression neutral, but my excitement was evident. The house is so vast that it's impossible to see everything in a day. Let's finish today's tour here, and I'll show you more in a couple of days. Thank you, Philip. I lost track of time because your descriptions were so engaging. I'm flattered. Philip's words were sincere. Despite his reserved demeanor, he provided me with a thorough and insightful tour, highlighting the most important features of each room. After a pleasant morning, I followed him back to my room, where he even suggested a new route, continuing to offer thoughtful commentary. This is the convention room, a perfect spot to appreciate the courtyard's beauty. The Duke often enjoys walks here. How lovely! The view is breathtaking. The Duke's mansion, his wealth, and everything within it were truly magnificent. I was overwhelmed by the beauty of it all. In my previous life, I never had the opportunity to travel, but I never imagined I'd experience something like this. This was far more exciting than visiting ancient European cities. The real life of the Duke's household was much more fascinating than any dusty museum. Such beauty, I whispered. The arches cast shadows across the floor, and the ivy, with new buds, climbed the pillars. Beyond the railing, I could see the well-maintained pavilion. Lizzie, Cliff, and Killian were sitting on the balcony, having tea. Ah, they often have tea at this hour. It seems Miss Lizzie is with them today. Philip glanced over at the same moment as I did, clearly embarrassed by the situation. It's a bit awkward to see the groom having tea with another woman, leaving his bride behind. Perhaps Philip thought I'd caused trouble. I recalled a scene from the original story, where Edith saw this and glared at Killian and Lizzie, but all she received was a contemptuous look from him. But I felt nothing but joy seeing the Duke's wealth and taste. I see. Well, when spring arrives, the garden will be even more spectacular. Yes, that's true. I think I'll visit here often. Shall we continue the tour? Of course, let's go. I smiled and followed Philip, though I sensed a hint of sadness in his gaze. It was probably my imagination, as I doubted it had anything to do with me. The first thought that came to my mind after possessing Edith was that I was strangely reluctant. Is it because Edith set up Lizzie as her enemy in the original story? I don't feel comfortable dealing with Lizzie. Maybe it's because Lizzie and Edith's relationship is like oil and water. Even if it's not about character, how can the man I love embrace the woman he loves? I didn't want to get close. Maybe because I knew Lizzie was the one who brought Edith down. In this situation, trying to force a relationship might lead to misunderstandings. It's better to be kind but keep a proper distance. But I couldn't leave my hands blank. Aside from being close, I need to investigate the three people unnoticed. If you know your enemy, you can win every battle. A basic research is essential to survive in this world, and perhaps the most important people to investigate were the three main characters. The next day, I decided to dress simply and observe them from afar, pretending to figure out the internal structure of the mansion while using opera binoculars. As I find Lizzie, the other two will naturally follow. I remembered the original story and searched for places where Lizzie might be assembly hall, courtyard, terrace on the second floor, and garden. I finally found her! But why is she outside? Is it still cold? Under a large tree in the garden, Lizzie was reading a book, covered by a thick shawl. She delicately flipped through the pages, looking so beautiful that even a woman like me would stare in awe. But I was the only one who saw her. Why are you alone? I thought there would be a male lead where Lizzie is. Just as I thought about it, Cliff appeared from somewhere. Lizzie. Oh, Cliff! The wind is still chilly. Why are you here? That was exactly what I wanted to say. It was still cold to be reading outside. It's frustrating to be stuck indoors. It's chilly, but the air is clear, so I feel refreshed. And then, what if you catch a cold? Cliff spoke affectionately and sat close to Lizzie. What book are you reading? It's a book about the history of the imperial family. I didn't get this kind of education just in case I didn't know. I was afraid I would become someone for the Duke. Lizzie, listed on the family register of Count Sinclair but ignored as an illegitimate child, had never learned what noble women should. She felt indebted to the Duke and his wife, who treated her like their daughter and feared that the Duchess would be disgraced because of her. So Lizzie always turned to books. Poor Lizzie, it wasn't her fault. She was born an illegitimate child. It was her father's fault. As if I wasn't the only one who thought so, Cliff wrapped his arms around Lizzie's shoulders with a sad expression and lightly kissed her forehead. You will never become anyone. But it doesn't matter if you read it because you like it, but if you read it just because you don't want to become someone, you should stop. All you need to do is have fun here, Lizzie. Cliff kindly soothed Lizzie, but her smile looked bitter, and I knew how she felt. Cliff, you must think it's all right because you know it all. But for those who can't learn or don't have it, it's different. No matter how much Cliff cared for Lizzie, he couldn't get rid of her complex thoughts. Lizzie had to discover and study on her own. It was for herself. Meanwhile, Cliff, obsessed with Lizzie, didn't like her standing alone without him. That's why he secretly flirted with words like that. Just then, I saw Killian coming. Why are you interrupting Lizzie's study? Lizzie, do whatever you want. If it satisfies you, I'll help however I can. His consolation was different from Cliff's, but if I were Lizzie, I would have been more grateful to Killian. However, it was a bit weak for the male lead. The only line a male lead would utter in a romance novel would be, I'll give you everything. Just look at me. Killian, I agree with you that you're right, but that's why you can't beat Cliff. Cliff is a sweet bastard. Cliff would rather hope Lizzie couldn't do anything without him. He could tolerate Lizzie's kindness to Killian. He was sure Lizzie would feel uneasy standing alone. As expected, the two men gathered where Lizzie was. But don't they have work? Is it their job to follow Lizzie all day? It's a virtue for nobility not to work, yet they seem to be cycling around Lizzie all day, playing too much. If I were Lizzie, I would kick them out, because it's annoying, but Lizzie accepts it well. Perhaps she didn't realize they were clinging to her. Or maybe she knew, but couldn't do anything about it. Either way, it wasn't normal. Or maybe it was just the basic plot for a romance female lead to have that much attention. No, but by the way, if Edith were married to Killian, it must have been the beginning of the 4th volume, right? Then Lizzie must have already made up her mind toward Cliff? That's how the story of Killian marrying a villainess unfolds. But looking at it now, I still couldn't tell which of the two men Lizzie favored. Even those who read the original were confused. So maybe neither of them had noticed. Wow, Lizzie Sinclair. She's got a lot of skills to take care of the field. I need to learn something like that too. If she didn't know what to do, it was innate. And if she did know, she could be called a villainess. Of course, Lizzie was innate. My parents, who farmed in the countryside, were responsible for dressing, feeding, and taking me to the hospital until my siblings graduated from high school. However, they were generally not very interested in their children's lives. They never asked about how much Nana Appa studied, what his friendships were like, what his dreams were, or what worries he had. When they found out that my brother was addicted to gambling and had borrowed money from me, they didn't seem to care. Maybe they just saw it as a minor problem. They'll probably pretend to cry because it's a person, but I'd rather not feel sad about it. If they really loved their children, they'd probably be more concerned about my brother than grieving my death. My parents must have taken a few days to breathe. I'm sure they care more about my brother than about me being gone. I also thought about my colleagues and my ex-boyfriend, but there wasn't much gratitude left. I'm sure everyone was surprised by my death, but they'll forget about it soon enough. It was a little lonely to think that no one would miss Choi Suna, but I was actually relieved for the people who remained. Yeah, that's it. After contemplating my past life, I decided to stop worrying about those left behind. I sighed, and Anna told me that the Duchess was looking for me. Let's stay calm. Right now, I need to focus on dealing with people in this life, not the ones from the past. Once I shook off the sentimentality of my past life, I composed myself and got up. I went to visit the Duchess, putting on my best innocent daughter-in-law expression, and she greeted me with good news in a warm voice. Edith, I've called the tailor, as you asked. They'll be here tomorrow morning, so think about what you want to order. Oh, already? Thank you so much. It's no trouble at all. Thanks to you, Lizzie and I can finally match our dresses. True to form, she was always concerned with Lizzie. By the way, wasn't this an episode in the original? I had called the tailor to fix my dresses, but in the original, Edith ordered an expensive dress, and Lizzie came to join. There was a bit of a fight between Edith and Lizzie. Wow, this is giving me goosebumps. Whatever I do, the original events are still unfolding, right? It was a strange feeling, like a premonition. I tried to recall the specifics. In the original story, Edith and Lizzie picked out dresses, and Lizzie ended up choosing a design that suited her perfectly. Edith, frustrated, ordered a frenzied dress with everything on it to try to outshine Lizzie. When compliments kept going to Lizzie's dress, Edith got angry, and Killian criticized her. Well, I'm not buying a new dress, so the outcome will be very different. I thought to myself, trying to stay lighthearted, I spent the day picking out my dress to drop off at the tailor and figuring out what changes to make. The next morning, the long-awaited day arrived. Miss, the tailor has arrived. I'll escort you to the Duchess's drawing room. Oh, they're finally here. Thank you, Anna. I followed Anna into the Duchess's drawing room, feeling excited. Lizzie was already there. Thank you for inviting me, Mother. Hello, Miss Lizzie. Oh, hello. Lizzie quickly stood up and greeted me, as if glad I spoke to her first. It had been a while since I saw her, and as always, she was dazzlingly beautiful. You'll get used to it soon. I think I'll be mesmerized every time I see her. I almost made a silly face again, but I managed to hide it with an awkward smile. Hello, I'm Emily Luale from the Luale Dressing Shop. It's an honor to be here. Emily, the owner of the Royal Designer Shop, appeared to be in her early 40s, with soft brown hair. She had brought not only colorful fabrics and laces, but also a variety of style books. Shall we start with the Duchess? Emily asked. She opened a style book specifically for older women and presented it to the Duchess. As the Duchess browsed, she smiled and looked at me and Lizzie. As I get older, I feel like I always pick similar designs. Could you choose a design for me this time? Emergency. Unexpected situation. Why are they testing me without warning? Cold sweat ran down my back. I knew what was coming. The Duchess would like Lizzie's choice more than mine. Or she might order both, but still prefer Lizzie's after receiving more compliments. I was nervous, but Lizzie looked unusually pleased. Can I really do that? Of course, Lizzie. To my surprise, the same style book was placed in front of both Lizzie and me. I had to pick a design. I tried to calm myself as I flipped through the pages, but I knew this was a test stacked against me. Lizzie had been living here for 5 years, so she probably knew the Duchess's tastes well, whereas it hasn't even been 2 weeks since I arrived in this world. I never imagined that the style battle episode with Lizzie would unfold like this. The original flow was much stronger than I expected. I studied the book carefully. Lizzie picked a blue silk dress, and Emily quickly fetched a sample fabric, draping it over the Duchess's shoulders. It's a perfect choice, isn't it? The Duchess, with her milky hair, amber eyes, and fair skin, would look beautiful in anything, but blue seemed like a great choice. It's a wonderful choice, Miss Lizzie. This is the latest design from our collection, and the silk is the highest quality, sourced from the imperial family. Emily praised Lizzie's decision, and the Duchess smiled, clearly pleased. What did Edith choose? Me? As Lizzie's choice was receiving all the praise, the Duchess's gaze shifted to me. I had chosen a slightly more colorful and fancy design, though I knew the Duchess would probably prefer Lizzie's blue dress. I think the dress Miss Lizzie picked would be perfect for you, Mother. But for a change of mood, I think this style would be nice too. I pointed to a brown silk dress. The copper-colored silk was accented with golden vines, and the deep purple underdress added a touch of elegance. While my 21st century eyes thought the design would suit the Duchess well, I doubted others would appreciate it as much. Miss Rigelhof, you have a good eye. These color combinations are rare, but they really bring out the dress's true beauty. The dress is lovely, but don't you think it's a bit too flashy for me? As expected, the Duchess seemed hesitant, but I gave my innocent explanation. First of all, Madame Luelle, I'm no longer a Rigelhof daughter. If it's more comfortable for you, you can just call me Miss Edith. Oh, I made a mistake! Ho ho! Mother, this dress may seem bold at first, but it's perfect for the dignity of the Ludwig family. Besides, you have the beauty and class to pull it off. The Duchess, embarrassed, agreed to order both the dresses Lizzie and I had recommended. I wasn't trying to win this competition anyway, so I didn't mind losing. Let's move on to Lizzie's dress now. Lizzie, as expected, waved her hand in refusal. I don't mind wearing anything. The dress I have is more than enough. Well, a person with Lizzie's beauty could pull off anything, even a giant robe. The Duchess continued selecting dresses for Lizzie, and I pointed out a few more options. This would be perfect. This shade of pink would look amazing on you, Miss Lizzie. Your fair skin and strawberry milk cheeks would match it beautifully. Good eye, Edith. How about this white empire dress? I think it would make Miss Lizzie look too young. How about this Greek robe-style dress instead? We spent some time discussing the options. Lizzie just laughed awkwardly beside us. Well, I guess I'll take 5 of these. After a while, the Duchess was happy with the selections, and it was finally my turn. Edith, why don't you order a new dress as well? Oh, I didn't call the designer to order a new one. Huh? I smiled internally, relieved that I could avoid the expense. Instead of ordering something new, I decided to have some of my old dresses repaired. I explained the alterations to Madame Luelle. I'll just have some repairs done on these dresses. After discussing the necessary changes, I felt a sense of satisfaction, hoping I'd earn some favor with Lizzie. I can't even imagine it. I could only see him looking at me with contempt, and I couldn't even fathom him looking at me with love. It's funny, really, how lost I am in this whole thing. That's a good thing. Why would I imagine something like that? I laughed quietly to myself, circling the phrase, "Be grateful for what you have," in my mind over and over again. Killian? What are you doing over there? The silence of the night was gently broken. Oh, Lizzie, what's going on? Killian, lost in thought while gazing down at the moonlit garden from the balcony, offered a faint smile as Lizzie approached, looking like she had been cut out of the very moonlight itself. No, nothing. Nothing? Is this about the fight you had with Cliff earlier today? Fight with Cliff? Me? Cliff said. Lizzie hesitated, unsure how to finish her sentence. Only then did Killian remember the provocations from Cliff earlier. It's nothing. Then, what is it? Killian met Lizzie's gaze as she looked at him with concern. He had always loved the way Lizzie's worried eyes would soften towards him, Sometimes he'd even feign seriousness just to see that look. He still loved it, but he would never intentionally make her worry. Right now, the only thing on his mind was that woman from the tea earlier in the day, and it wasn't worth making a fuss about. It's just something that's been bothering me. You're grumbling to yourself again. Tell me, maybe I can help. It's not even worth your time. Killian smiled, but Lizzie, ever perceptive, quickly sensed something more. Is it about Edith? Killian sighed deeply in lieu of an answer. What's going on with Edith? Do you still hate her that much? She keeps bothering me. Does she bother you that much? Edith never talks about you. That made Killian's brow furrow. She never talks about me? Not once. Even the Duchess said she's never heard her mention you. I thought you two had something, but... Ha! Killian laughed. Absurdly so. Why? You want to talk to Edith? With a woman like that? No way. She's like a snake, lying low for now, waiting for everyone to let their guard down. And when the time comes, she'll show her true nature. I don't even want to look at her, let alone talk to her. And you're upset because of her? I'm human too. But despite himself, he couldn't stop thinking about what she'd said earlier. There's no way you'd be hurt by something like that, right? Everyone knew this marriage was political. Edith, bold and calculating, had walked into the Ludwig mansion knowing full well she would be ignored and doubted because she had something to gain. A woman like that couldn't be hurt by harsh words alone. Yeah, I'm sure she was just pretending to be hurt so she could get back at me. But she was the same woman who had confronted Cliff Ludwig without a hint of fear. But why did she take my side there? Even though his feelings for Lizzie were no secret, he couldn't express them aloud in front of his new bride, especially if that bride was trying to capture the attention of his family. This was why he had been so furious with Cliff earlier, trying to confess his feelings for Lizzie in front of Edith. But then, out of nowhere, the woman who claimed to be hurt had snapped at Cliff instead. She's tougher than I thought. I didn't expect her to be so unaffected by the little things. As Edith had snorted, her indifference and arrogance had only seemed to grow. She wasn't at all like the fragile woman everyone assumed her to be. Honestly, I feel cool. No. Why am I even thinking about this? Killian shook his head, trying to rid himself of the image of Edith glaring at him. He quickly shifted the conversation. Oh, I heard you ordered a new dress the other day. My mother is so excited about it. There are so many dresses. I feel bad for the Duchess every time. Why should you feel bad? It's my mother's hobby. She's been saying for a while now that she doesn't enjoy raising us. Now that you're here, think of it as helping her out. The Duchess had always wanted a daughter. With her husband and sons out training most of the time, she often felt isolated. But when Lizzie arrived, her spirit lifted, and she started treating her like her own daughter. Then, wouldn't it have been better for the Duchess to buy Edith a dress? Huh? What do you mean? Lizzie's brows furrowed, sighing. Actually, it was Edith who asked the Duchess to call someone from the dress shop. Was she planning to charm the Duchess as soon as she got married? No. That day, Edith only left a dress for repairs. What? Killian was stunned for a moment. Edith, known for her extravagance, usually ordered a new dress from the most expensive shops, so it was hard to believe she would simply have a dress repaired. The Duchess suggested buying her something new, but Edith refused, saying it was too much and she could barely wear the dresses she had already brought. So, you're saying she embarrassed my mother in front of everyone? Well, not exactly, but the Duchess did seem a bit disappointed. She probably wanted to buy Edith something nice. Killian snorted, amused by the absurdity of it all. There are many ways to tease people. I'm worried if it's someone's daughter. I'm sure Edith didn't mean it that way. When the Duchess and I were picking out my dress, Edith was really considerate. Lizzie tried to defend Edith, but Killian's eyes were sharp, now focused. I guess she was too proud to entrust her own dress to the tailor, but not to you or my mother. How arrogant. Killian gritted his teeth. Then, the thought of Edith's outfit today came to mind. He couldn't remember exactly what she was wearing, but it seemed less noticeable. Her dress, unlike the one at the wedding, didn't reveal too much. If there had been any exposed skin, he would have hated it more than he hated it in other women. Edith frowned whenever her skin showed in a way he disapproved of. But did she even know what he was thinking? If I were Edith Rigelhof, I'd lick you from head to toe. Is there any man who would be okay with her naked body in front of him? Oh, Edith. Such soft, smooth skin. Those thoughts made his throat dry. But then Lizzie's voice broke through. No, my dress was chosen by the Duchess and Edith together. Don't hate Edith too much, Killian. It's not that I hate her, I'm just cautious. Killian patted Lizzie's shoulder to reassure her, but inside, he felt disgusted by Edith's attempt to undermine the Ludwig family. Yet a part of him recognized Edith's taste in fashion, which didn't sit well with him either. I'll find another tailor for Edith, one that will satisfy her, high standards. It was all for the Duke of Ludwig's reputation, after all. He didn't want Edith running around claiming that she couldn't get the tailor she wanted. With a crash, a delicate teacup shattered. Ah, are you out of your mind? What do you see in someone like her? A shrill voice echoed through the room, causing hysteria. Damien Sinclair, who had been summoned by a frantic maid, looked at his younger sister Layla, who was in the midst of another temper tantrum. What's going on this time? Layla turned toward her brother and shot him a glare. Do you ask because you don't know? There are many things. Which one are you referring to? Edith Rigelhof is married to Killian Ludwig. Ah, that? The Sinclair family hadn't been invited to the wedding held by the Duke of Ludwig. It was a frugal ceremony for only close relatives, but the closest noble aides were still invited. Count Sinclair's pride had been wounded, but above all, it was the fact that Edith, the daughter of the Rigelhof family, had become the bride of the Ludwig family. This was enough to drive Layla mad. Count Rigelhof and Count Sinclair had a long history of bad blood, and Layla had long harbored a crush on Killian. How could Edith, once so arrogant, become the daughter-in-law of the Ludwig family? Why, Edith Rigelhof? Layla seethed. The Ludwig family seems to have a thing for rare women. Is that something to laugh at? Then what do you expect? Do you think that should have been your place? Layla's face flushed with anger and shame. Is my brother still the heir? As a daughter, I've been trying to help the family by finding a suitable partner. But why is my brother so indifferent? Yeah? Damien barely looked up from his tea. Why do you come back talking nonsense from a party? I'm here for the latest gossip from society. It's not that. Have you heard any rumors about the marriage? Of course. Damien gestured for the maid to clean up the broken teacup and sat across from Layla. She had brown hair, slightly darker than Lizzie's, and blue eyes. Not as striking as Lizzie's, but still beautiful. Her fiery personality contradicted her pretty appearance. Only a few could match her in strength, Mia and Anton and their parents. But of all people, it was her brother Damien who she relied on the most. What's the rumor? Don't hold back. Tell me quickly. Layla urged, but Damien remained silent until he had finished sipping the tea. Do you think the Duke of Ludwig trusts Count Rigelhof? Do you think Duke Ludwig is foolish enough to believe such a manipulative person? No. I'm saying that the Duke is not foolish, but Count Rigelhof controls the distribution of iron ore from the southern mines. Layla didn't respond, her gaze shifting uncomfortably. You know that iron ore is a vital resource for weapons, right? Layla remained silent, looking away. Damien sighed, shaking his head but not intending to back down. It was better for women to focus on beauty and pleasing their husbands, and knowing too much often caused trouble. Anyway, Count Rigelhof's family controls the rights to distribute iron ore until the end of this year. That's why the Ludwig family needs to keep a tight grip on them. Leash? There are rumors that Count Rigelhof is eyeing the Grand Archduke Langston. Archduke Langston was the Emperor's uncle and a notorious... Is that so? Maybe I'm going too far ahead. The author of this article is also from the 21st century, but the background of the work is virtual modern Europe. There may be some parts of what I say and do with the senses of the 21st century that don't fit the setting of this world. I was thinking of rewriting the table like in the other document, when the Duchess stood up from her seat and approached me. "What's wrong?" she asked gently. Before I could answer, Lizzie, who had been helping me, smiled angelically. Edith was helping me organize some stuff, but Edith is still not used to her work yet. Oh, it looks like Lizzie is helping Edith a lot. The Duchess looked pleased. Lizzie, who would be the wife of her first son, and I, the wife of her second son, working together made the Duchess happy. But for some reason, I felt a little offended. It reminded me of a time in my previous life when I was scolded even when I did a good job. In the past 3 weeks, I had accomplished more than most duchesses could without mistakes. Yet Lizzie thought I was unfamiliar with work because of the table I created. Yes, she's been helping me a lot, but Mother, I'd like your opinion on this table. Huh? Table? I explained the table I had created. The Duchess took my explanation seriously. It's a method not used often, but I don't think it's a bad idea for someone like you who needs to see a lot of information. She glanced at the table I had drawn and smiled broadly. My God, I can't believe you're thinking like this. Edith, that's amazing. Is that so? Of course. This is a great idea. We should organize our documents like this from now on. The Duchess was impressed and asked me to organize all the documents in this manner so everyone could learn from it. My heart raced with excitement, feeling like an elementary school kid praised by their teacher. For a moment, I felt guilty. Did Lizzie feel bad? I glanced at Lizzie, who was nodding, looking at the paper. She met my gaze and gave me an apologetic look. The small smile on her face made me feel sorry for her. My, did I say that without thinking of Lizzie? I was reminded of a senior who had stabbed me in the back. To save my life in this world, I had to be kind to Lizzie. I forgot who I was supposed to be. I was meant to be the houseplant, unnoticed and doing nothing. To ease the tension, I quickly added, but really, it's all thanks to Lizzie. She taught me everything. Oh no, I don't care. Honestly, there wasn't much for me to teach Edith because she knew it so well. Lizzie waved her hands in humility. I smiled weakly at her. It felt cowardly, but it was necessary. I just hoped Lizzie wouldn't feel bad about it. Unstoppable. Edith's flushed ears, slightly parted lips, slender neck, curved shoulders, and delicate collarbones made me dizzy. What am I doing now? Embarrassment and panic flooded me, making me blurt out the first thing that came to mind. I think you're helping my mother well. Just keep doing it like this and don't dwell on upsetting thoughts. Killian struggled to cover his discomfort. He even considered calling another tailor, recalling that Edith had only come to repair her dress at the royal dressing shop. Admittedly, my words weren't gentlemanly, but I hadn't expected her sharp criticism. It's not that I did anything wrong. You just hate me and are looking for an excuse to blame me. That makes things easier for you, doesn't it? That's cowardly. Why did I have to listen to that? My head was spinning, and the more I thought about it, the worse it throbbed. You don't know anything about me, Killian. Nothing. Why did her face look so sad when she said that? And she was right. I knew nothing about Edith. To me, she had always been Count Rigelhof's daughter, and everything I assumed about her was based on my memories of her father. Ugh. The pain in my temple spread through my skull, sharp, relentless. Killian? Lizzie's voice broke through the haze, and the pounding in my head eased. Lizzie. She often watched my duels with Cliff and must have been on her way to the training ground. Her presence brought relief. "Killian, are you feeling unwell?" "Oh no, I'm fine." The faint scent of violets surrounded her. I like the subtle scent of violets. The overpowering fragrance of roses is unbearable. With that thought, my headache faded further. "Really, Lizzie, I'm okay. It's just, I saw that woman this morning, so..." "You met Edith?" I warned her not to entertain foolish ideas. "Killian, I didn't say anything cruel, just..." Killian trailed off, unable to explain why he had gone to Edith's room. But standing next to Lizzie, he convinced himself it didn't matter. She's just a spy sent by Count Rigelhof. If you want to blame someone, blame your father. He forced himself to erase the image of Edith's sorrowful eyes. After Killian left, I needed something to distract me. If I stayed idle, his cold words would replay in my mind. In times like this, it's best to go outside. In my previous life, whenever I felt down, I would grab a large iced Americano and go for a walk. I loved visiting shopping malls, either browsing or just people watching from a bench. Since becoming Edith, I had been confined to the mansion, and the isolation frustrated me. The original Edith used to attend parties and gossip about Lizzie, but instead of that, couldn't I simply explore the city? With that thought, I called Anna. "Anna, let's go out." For a moment, her eyes widened in surprise at my sudden request, but she quickly composed herself and nodded. "Yes, miss. I'll inform the Duchess and prepare for our outing. Thank you." While Anna went to seek permission, I packed a small bag with the jewels I had removed while mending my dress. Then I picked out a suitable outfit. Just the act of getting ready lifted my mood. Anna soon returned with approval from the Duchess and helped me dress. "Where would you like to go, miss?" "Actually, I wanted to ask you, where's a fun place to visit? I've never gone out alone in the city before." Anna's eyes widened again but quickly lowered as if she had been trained not to question me. "That depends on what you'd like to do. If you're looking for fashion boutiques, accessory stores, or dessert cafes, La Belle Marie Street is ideal. If you prefer banks, art galleries, opera houses, and luxury cafes, Dartha Street is the best choice. Let's go to Dartha Street." "Understood." Anna handled everything efficiently, sparing me from making excuses. I climbed into the carriage, feeling a growing sense of excitement as we set off. Is this the downtown area of a romance novel? The scenery resembled early modern Europe, though without strict historical accuracy. It was charming, almost like a theme park styled after Europe. As I gazed out the window, the carriage turned left at a large intersection, entering a street lined with elegant stone buildings. "We've arrived, miss." Anna gave instructions to the coachman to wait at a nearby station, then stepped beside me as I took in the sights of Dartha Street. "Is there a place you want to visit?" "Yeah." "Is there a place you want to visit?" "Yeah. I want to stop by a jewelry store first. There are several well-known jewelers here. I need to sell some jewelry for a good price. Do you know where I should go?" Anna thought for a moment and suggested 3 places: Amabile, Detrius, and Route Pecan. "How do you know so much, Anna? You seem to know everything." "I'm flattered." Anna always had an answer, making things easier for me. It didn't matter if I couldn't search the internet, I had Anna. "Let's go to Detrius first." I walked into the jewelry stores with a light heart. Fortunately, my diamonds were high quality, and I got a much better price than expected. Detrius offered the highest bid but only paid by check, so I sold them to Amabile instead, where I received full cash. "Now, let's go to the bank." "It's right over there." Anna pointed to a grand building in the middle of the road. Stepping inside, I was reminded of the Gringotts Wizarding Bank from a fantasy novel I loved. The bank had towering pillars and an elegant design. "Welcome to the Central Bank of Marlene." A butler-like man greeted us. "How may I assist you?" "I'd like to open a safe under my name." "Right this way." I was led into a luxurious room and given options for different-sized vaults. Small vaults held up to 10 million sina, medium ones up to 100 million, and large ones held more. Medium vaults required a maintenance fee based on deposits. Since I had a little over 9 million Sina, I opted for a small vault. I signed the agreement using an alias, just in case. The banker informed me about the withdrawal process, which required verification questions and a signature. Thank you. Leaving the bank, I felt a sense of accomplishment. It was reassuring to have 300,000 Sina left in my bag after securing the rest. Let's eat something good, Anna. As we walked, I noticed a long line outside a dessert cafe. What's that place? Paradotone of the most famous bakeries in the capital. Some items sell out before the store even opens. Tempting as it was, I decided to have a proper meal first. We chose a restaurant with an outdoor terrace near a park. It was expensive, catering to nobles, but I didn't mind treating Anna for always helping me. As we ate, I asked, "How do commoners travel without carriages? They rent carriages or take long-distance ones. And where do they stay overnight? Those with money stay in inns. Others sleep outside. Long-distance carriages gathered near the south gate, and motion sickness medicine was a must. Inns cost between 3,000 to 7,000 Sina per night, so I estimated an average of 5,000 Sina per stay." After finishing our meal, I thanked Anna. Her expression barely changed, but after spending months together, I could tell she was surprised. I hoped it was a positive reaction. As I planned for my future, I spent more time in the library, reading survival books. No one questioned my book choices, which made my research easier. One day, Anna appeared. "Miss, the Duchess is calling for you. The jeweler is here." I suspected Lizzie was already there. I wasn't eager to see her or Killian, but the Duchess had summoned me, and it involved jewelry, something I needed for my future plans. Let's go. Inside the drawing room, the Duchess, Lizzie, Cliff, and Killian were selecting jewelry. Felix Eppard, the jeweler, was present. I had no choice but to sit next to Killian, who barely acknowledged me. "This sapphire matches Lizzie's eyes perfectly. What about this pearl necklace?" They excitedly picked out jewelry for Lizzie, while Killian gave occasional input. I remembered reading this scene in the original story where Edith was humiliated. Lizzie had offered her a small necklace, but Edith coldly refused. When she tried claiming multiple items, the jeweler pointed out that each piece was unique. In the end, Cliff bought everything with a blank check. This time, I intended to handle things differently. Lizzie chose the necklace and asked Edith, "I think this necklace will suit you." It was a beautiful red necklace, the same color as Edith's hair. The Duchess agreed and asked Edith to try it on. Just as she was about to check it, Killian stood up, extended his hand, and gently tried to put the necklace on her. Edith was flustered, wondering, why is he being so kind to me? But then she thought, maybe he's only acting this way because the Duchess is watching. If you want more parts of this story, please ask in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.